and we should be live. I'm just gonna give it a minute until I see you guys in the chat. Although it's rather bright, I might not see you straight away. And I see the numbers, so you should be here. If anyone was completely new to me, this is a live stream from Marseille. We've got about 10 minutes to start, so we're just waiting for everyone to connect. We've got about 9 minutes, I think. Oh, and I've had a great idea to wear a white t-shirt, so I can't actually see the chat properly. Let me go like this. Perfect. Thank you, Tish. And welcome, Anne. Welcome everyone that just joined. We're just waiting for everyone to connect. We've got, let me tell you precisely, 7 minutes to go. 7 minutes before it's officially time to get started. I can't actually wear my hat the right way around because the wind has started, which is great. A little bit of fresh air because it's been pretty hot today. 34 Celsius it was. It might have dropped down a couple of degrees with the wind, but it's still definitely over 30 Celsius. Hi Pauline, hi Shas, welcome everyone that just joined. We've got about 6 minutes to go. Who do I see? Hi Sandrine, welcome. And welcome everyone else. Let me flip the camera around to show you where I am. It's not the most comfortable tour for me today because I've got a lot of luggage with me. I've got 2 big bags, so it's not going to be very convenient with the microphone cable and all that. Hi Danette, and welcome everyone else. Hi Terry, nice to see you here. And before anything else, we've got to test the microphone. Apologies, the microphone has decided to expose part of my bra. That's okay. We've got bigger fish to fry. So I'm gonna tap the microphone to check that it's working properly. I'm gonna tap it 3 times. You know the drill. Let me know in the chat if you've heard it properly. It is particularly important today because it's windy, so you don't want to hear the wind. Hi Diane, and welcome Cheryl, welcome everyone else. Let me know that you've heard the tap. Apologies if I miss anything in the chat, it's so bright, it's very difficult to see. You've heard it, perfect, thank you Tish. Welcome Samantha. So we've got 4 minutes to go, 4 minutes. So as I mentioned in the chat earlier, I hope not, but there is a slight possibility that after 45 minutes or an hour or so, my phone could overheat, because it has happened to me before when it was over 30 degrees Celsius. Hopefully not, because the wind should be able to cool it down a bit, but if that happened, don't panic, I'm still alive. Well, Marseille is said to be the most dangerous city in Europe, but I'm sure I'll survive. And welcome everyone that just joined. All right, let me get the second bag and gracefully stand up. So if anyone was completely new to me, if you want to, if you're watching a replay, if you're not watching us live, but you're watching a replay in the next few months or weeks or days, you can still skip another 2 minutes to go straight into the walking tour of Marseille. We're just waiting for everyone to connect and say hello in the chat. If you happen to be new, don't be shy, introduce yourself in the chat. It's always nice to see a few new faces. Or new names, because I don't see your face. Let me see. 2 minutes to go, 2 minutes to go. So today we'll go for a little walk on the Vieux Port, and I'll tell you about some of the murder mysteries in Marseille, and potentially one of the biggest miscarriages of justice ever in the country. Don't I have sunglasses? Sandrine is asking. I wouldn't be able to read the chat with sunglasses, Sandrine. I can't. It's already very difficult to see, so with sunglasses I wouldn't see anything. It's 2 minutes still. I mean, I'd usually be okay with my hat, but it's a bit windy, so it'll probably fly off. And Tariq is here as well. Welcome, Tariq. Welcome everyone that I did not greet in the chat. So if at any point through the tour you start hearing some wind noises, don't be shy, do let me know in the chat, because I've got this cable and I've got all those connections, and because I've got all those bags today, we're even more likely to have a little disconnection. So do let me know. Hi, Marilyn. So it is nearly 5:30 p.m. in France. 5:29 at the moment. We'll wait until it's officially time to go. And let's see if it is time. No, still 1 minute. Apologies if you have a bit of traffic noises at the beginning. We're gonna go through a fairly big road, but after that it's gonna be pedestrian. And it should be time now. Yes, it is. Welcome everyone. Welcome to sunny Marseille. Without any further ado, I'm gonna flip this camera around and let's go for a little walk. I am here on Plage des Catalans. It's a lovely little beach here in Marseille, very close to the Vieux Port, the old port. And it's very busy, as you can see, but it's quite cool because they have a little cloakroom. So, you know, if you come to the beach on your own, you can't really swim because anyone might steal your phone or your wallet or whatever it might be. So you have a free cloakroom if you want to drop your bag. That's very, very convenient, I would say. Then there's another cool thing over here that I've never seen myself, but about 100 meters down this way, underwater, you have an underwater museum, the Submarine Museum. It's not very old. I think it's only been 2 or 3 years, but artists have created those sculptures that have been placed underwater, so you can go diving down there and see the art. I think you could even go. You don't even need to dive. It's only 5 meters, so you could probably just snorkel down, really. Right, let me remove it and we'll make a move. And see the last island to the left inside in the distance. There's not much to see from here, but I believe that's a bit of Chateau d'If that you can see. Chateau d'If, some of you might have heard of it. It was this prison on an island. It was a very much a fortified prison. You would have heard of Chateau d'If if you've read or if you've seen the movie Le Comte de Monte Cristo. The book is from Alexandre Dumas. Did any of you read it? Or did you see the movie? There was a movie that came out a few years ago. Exactly, Sandrine, yes. Very fascinating story about a character that is jailed for a crime he never committed, and he manages to escape, and as a revenge. It's I hear that the movie wasn't actually as good as the book because they skipped a couple of characters that had a great importance. one of the characters was actually cast, and he filmed a few scenes, but then they cropped him out when he was. So yeah, it's a bit weird because you see the character as a child and then he never comes back. Anyway, let me know in the. Yeah, you've read it, Sandrine. Did anyone else read it? I don't know whether it's very well known internationally, but it is definitely very well known in France. Hi, Joy. Right, let's go down towards the Vieux Port. Do you know who else was locked in at Château d'If? So it was, I believe the last prisoners there were in 1914, you know, through the First World War. Through the Second World War, it was actually taken by the Nazis. But there's a gentleman that was locked in there in 1720 something. It was the captain of a ship called Le Grand Saint-Antoine. Le Grand Saint-Antoine is the ship that brought the last huge epidemic of plague in Europe, 1720. At the time, we knew very well how the plague arrived, you know, although they didn't quite know how it transmitted, and they didn't know about bacteria and all that. They knew it often came on ship and stuff like that. So in Marseille, I mean, Marseille is a huge port, and it always was. It's actually a Greek city. Marseille dates back to 600 BC. It was part of Massilia, which was a Greek colony, really. Anyway, huge port. So they had a very well-organized quarantine system for the ships that arrived and had some diseases, or at least some suspicious deaths on board. And that's exactly what happened with the Grand Saint-Antoine. 9 people had died on board. They had come all the way from Syria, going through Cyprus. They were bringing heavy or expensive fabrics like silk and stuff. So expensive stuff that they wanted to sell at there was a big market, like an event market. So what the process was that they'll have to stop 6 miles away to the Bureau de Santé, the health check, explain what had happened, if anything happened on board, and then they'll be allowed to go into Marseille or not. Or they'll be quarantined on one island, actually quite close to Château d'If, for the time being. What happened with the captain of the Grand Saint-Antoine, he had been honest. He did tell them he had 9 sailors that died, including the doctor. And let's say that the Bureau de Santé failed to report it. Hi, Ritwik. So all the crew and everyone, instead of being quarantined at sea on an island, they were quarantined in Marseille, in the infirmaries in central Marseille. And we know now that they were allowed to go out to the railings, and their wives would come and kiss them and take some of the laundry away to be washed, because the street that was hit by the plague first was the street with all the washing ladies. And at the time Marseille had a population of 100,000. Half of Marseille died in 1720. So there was the last huge wave of plague in Europe. And not only Marseille, Aix-en-Provence, Toulon. There was one local town that was not hit by the plague. It is La Ciotat. That's where I'm from. It's about half an hour from here. One day I do want to take you to La Ciotat in October, because in October there's a party called 1720. It is a party where we celebrate the fact that we were never hit by that plague. So all the port of La Ciotat is kind of dressed up. They bring some mud on the streets and stuff. Everyone dresses up in an 18th century costume, and then they party on the port just to celebrate that we didn't have the plagues 300 years ago. Sorry, thank you. So that's quite cool. I probably would never be allowed to or able to go live because it's a very busy event. But one day I'll try to go down and do a little video. Anyway, let's go to the Vieux Port. We'll see some fortifications because, of course, the harbor had to be protected. You can already see some of the fortifications on the right inside over here. I think on this side it's the St. Nicholas Fort, and on the other side it's the St. Jean Fort. I'll show you a little view of the entrance of the port. And of course, Chateau d'If was also a fortification at sea. It was almost like the border at sea, you know, and so they could check for anyone coming through, like pirates or anything like that. Did any of you ever come to Marseille in real life? Let me know in the chat if you have. A lot of people come here when they are on cruises, but it's not, it didn't used to be hugely touristy. No? Yes, you have, Sandrine? Cool. Let me show you a glimpse of the view from here. Manuccian was one of them, but he was gunned down by before being killed. You have Pauline. Cool. Did you like it? Oops. Sorry, I just got the cable trapped. Right, let's go down. So Marseille was also home to quite a few criminals. We still have a lot of crime today, but there's a lot of drug-related crimes. You know, Marseille was once home to the French Connection, of course, supplying the US with a lot of heroin, and it's kept its tradition of drug dealing. Not so much here, but in the north part of the city, it's quite bad. 2023, 4. So that's why it has the reputation to be very unsafe. But as a tourist, I don't think it's any worse than, you know, Paris or Lyon. The crimes are very much gang related. There are some areas where the police to act as a lookout at the entrance of the you know, the council estate blocks or areas in France. We call them cité, like a city. And France is quite good at segregating. You know, you can, I mean, I would call it ghettoization. They often put the social housing on the outskirts of the city. It's not so much the case in Marseille compared to Paris or Lyon or whatever. You have some social housing a bit everywhere, but the north area is quite bad for drugs and all that. Apparently, we have one of the highest consumption of cannabis in Europe. So yeah, not the safest place in the north of the city, but over here it's fine, you know. I mean, you could be pickpocketed like anywhere else, but you shouldn't get murdered. Anyway, there was one extremely shocking murder that happened in Marseille in 1974, and that really shocked the country. And that sadly ruined many other lives. It is the case of little Maria Dolores. Maria was 8 years old. She lived in one of those cities, so social housing, and she had. It's funny, I feel like my gimbal is going funny. I don't know if it's me pulling the cable or if it's just the gimbal. So she lived in one of those cities called Cité Sainte-Agnès. our parents were from Spain, working class. Daddy was a baker, and Mummy was at home. She had two brothers. One was Jean. He was 6 years old, and one day they were playing downstairs, just in front of their buildings, and it was lunchtime. They were actually, Mummy was expecting them up there for lunch, when apparently, according to Little Jean was known for many, many years as Petit Jean, like Little John in Robin Hood. And apparently a gentleman came in with a grey car that Little Jean described as a Simca. So that was quite a popular car at the time. And the gentleman, don't know why my phone is moving like this. So I'm just testing it right now. It's not actually, just checking it. It might just be the cable sticking on the sweat on my arms. I don't know if it's, anyway, it will do. No, it's moving too much. That's not normal. Bear with me 1 second. I'm just going to restart it. I don't like this. It's moving too much. Bear with me. Apologies if you get a bit dizzy. Oops. And let's start it again.
Continue.
Huh. Hope I didn't break an axis. That's not normal at all. What happened to my gimbal? Well, I don't know what to say. It might be overheating as well. I don't know. Hopefully, it's not too bad. It shouldn't be moving like this. Anyway, so Little Jean met this guy in a car. So Jean was with Maria Dolores, and the guy claimed. So the guy in the car, he claimed he had lost his dog. So he was like, "Would you mind helping me finding the dog?" And Little Jean was like, "Yeah, sure," and Maria Dolores as well. So the guy told Little Jean, "You're going this way, I'm going this way with Maria." And that's all Little Jean did. He went around the building, and as he came back, his sister was gone. So was the guy with the car. At the time, let's cross over. They didn't really have a process on how to interview the kids. Today we take great precautions when we talk to the kids, and at the time they were not trained. Police officers were not really trained to do so. And Little Jean was taken to L'évêché. It's the main police station. It's actually behind me. And then eventually he refused to speak. They probably scared him off. He had already told everything he remembered, and he did say it was a grey car, a sim car, and that was all. The poor family was obviously extremely shocked and looking for little Maria everywhere. When on the other side of Marseille, in a quartier called in an area called La Pomme, there was a car accident. A grey car. Why is this moving like this? There was a grey car that hit another car. He was going too fast and did not respect the priority. It was a tiny little accident. It was just a bit of damage on the cars, but he didn't stop. He actually ran off. So the other car followed him for a bit, and there was a couple in another car. Oh, I'm so sorry about the gimbal. It's not normal at all. So there was a couple in another car that decided to follow the guilty party, and eventually that car stopped. A guy came out and ran into the woods. The couple only saw the guy from the distance, but then they were talking to him. They were like, come back, it's not gonna cost much, we're gonna do the insurance and blah blah blah. This couple was called Aubert. They were the Aubert couple, and they actually kept changing their deposition. Later on, they added that they saw him come out. They ended up quite deep into the vegetation, and they found a place where they used to grow mushrooms, and that's where they found the body. Now, the little girl had been brutally killed with a knife, and really disappointed by my gimbal. I guess I'll have to buy a new one. So they found the body. They came with where they found a red jumper, and the couple that had spotted the car and that had witnessed the accident, they had actually written down the registration of the car, so they could tell the police that it was 1369 6006. So the police actually located the driver. He was a young man from Nice called Christian Ranucci. When they got to Ranucci, they were actually very surprised, because they imagined him to be some kind of pervert-looking weirdo, when he was actually a very well-presented young man, 20 years old, very polite, fairly pretty. So they were surprised. He came to the police station. He very quickly admitted the accident. Yeah, he had the accident. He had panicked and run into the woods, but never did he kill anyone. And at that point, the Aubert couple, at first, they put him through an identity parade. They didn't recognize him. Then they took little Jean, the 6-year-old boy. Let me show you a picture of Jean. This is little Jean. So they had an identity parade as well. Little Jean did not recognize Ranucci. There was another witness at that point, apparently, that had spotted the little girl going into a car with a gentleman, and he also said it had been a Simca. When the Ranucci's car was the same color, it was gray as well, but it was not a Simca. It was a 304 Peugeot. Well, apparently the two cars are not that different. If you see the back of them, it could be easily confused, but still not the same car. And the guy that spotted them, the witness, he actually worked in a garage, so he knew about cars. And eventually, though, he said, "Yeah, it can only be me. I've done it. I've did bad. It's quite incriminating, but some people believe the police might have planted it, because there was a report that they had found the knife before they actually even found it in another report. So who knows? So that was very incriminating. So Ranucci was, well, for this type of crimes, you might be guillotined. Yes, we were still guillotining people in France in the 70s, would you believe? He was actually the penultimate prisoner to be executed by guillotine. In his admission, he claimed he never did it. He was locked in the Baumette prison, so that's the Marseille prison. He didn't really shout out his innocence. He actually had a very odd behavior when he said no, but he was like, yeah, it can only be me, like almost like if he was lost already, And his only hope was the President Valéry Giscard d'Estaing at the time, because you could get a grace from the president. His lawyers went to see the president and explained the case and explained that there just wasn't enough to everyone that just joined. So yeah, his lawyers went job. They believed that the president was gonna give him a grace, a presidential grace. He, to be honest, he probably was. But the thing is, they were not very lucky. The very same day in Toulon, there was a little boy that was, little Vincent, that was also kidnapped and killed. And people were on the street shouting, dead, 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 death penalty, So Valéry Giscard d'Estaing, the president, probably changed his mind overnight. He was famously against the death penalty, but the public opinion was so strongly against Ranucci. D'accord, I'm gonna tell my lawyers. And his lawyers were like, we hear, love, we hear. They took him down to the to the prison gardens, and they chopped his head off. He was only 22 years old at the time. I see that we should be all good. It's just that I saw a few people left at the same time. So yeah, he was sadly executed. Personally, I believe it's a miscarriage of justice. I believe it was a coincidence. He just had an accident at the bad time and he ran off. He was definitely guilty of that. So it looked quite bad for him at the time, but 2 years later, there's a writer and journalist that wrote a book, a very, very interesting book that sold very well all over the country. It was called The Man in the Red Jumper, because that jumper was never really solved, because Ranucci never wore red. All the witnesses, everyone that knew him, they said he would never wear a red jumper. Who was the owner of that jumper? We'll never know. And apparently there were a few witnesses or kids that claimed that they had been bothered in the areas by a man in a Simca that was looking for a dog. The thing is, the witness, the mother of some of those kids, she actually came to the trial, but she didn't really express herself properly. She was just not a good witness. She actually looked like if she was lying, so she wasn't taken seriously. So when that book was published in the 70s, like 2 years after the event, it really was the time where people started to be against the death penalty. Actually, the parents of the poor little Maria Dolores, they didn't want him to be killed. They just didn't want the guillotine for him, but that's what happened. And I would love to tell you that this is the end of the story, but it's not. Remember little Jean? That kid must have been traumatized. That kid was only 6 years old when he witnessed the abduction of his sister. Then you can probably imagine how many years he might have been blamed by his parents, or even punished somehow, or how many times his dad might have told him, why didn't you stay? Why didn't you take her up, back up for lunch, And also a lot of the doubt on Ranucci came because the little boy didn't recognize him, and because the little boy refused to speak. So that boy and his dad were actually used a lot by the politics at the time, people that were against the death penalty and people that were for it, and so on. His dad actually went a bit crazy after the book was published. He kept going into the libraries to destroy the books, and he would take little John with him. Eventually, little Jean, sorry, I don't know if I should say Jean or John. Little Jean became a bit isolated as an adult. He started to do drugs. His dad was He didn't know what to do to help him, so he actually asked some friends of his to give him a job, which they did because they felt bad for Jean. His name is Jean-Baptiste Rambla, and he got a decent job working in in those kind of canteens or catering you've got for movie sets. So we are now in the years 2000. He actually worked a lot on the we mentioned the show the other day in Saint-Tropez, the show Plus Belle la Vie, also known as Saint-Tropez in the US. So he worked on that show. His boss was called Corinne Bild. So that was the couple that was friends with his dad. And one day, Corinne disappeared. Her son had received a text saying, I'm off to Ibiza. And because there was a movie set in Ibiza. But everyone found it very suspicious because she wouldn't leave her son alone. And she hadn't taken anything with her, like items of clothing or passport or nothing really. So that was very, very suspicious. But the police didn't find any leads on Jean-Baptiste's ex went into her shed. She had accepted to take a bag from him weeks earlier, and when she went into the shed, it smelled terrible. She knew very well that if she told the police, she was going to incriminate Jean-Baptiste. But police came in, and Jean-Baptiste had killed Corinne. He had actually tried to burn the body before to put her in the bag. So a horrible trial, actually. That was quite horrible because his dad went back into the same court of justice in Aix-en-Provence. Sorry, I've lost you for a sec, so I'm just going to wait. I'm just going to repeat what I've said in the last minute or so because we had a little signal cut. So I was just saying that Jean-Baptiste had killed his employer, Corinne, with absolutely no motive. He did that. It's probably just all the anger and the trauma from his childhood. He was tried in Aix-en-Provence in the very same court of justice as he had been with his dad 30 years earlier. He was jailed. He was meant to spend 18 years in prison, but in prison his behavior was quite exemplary, really. He studied and he took a job. He applied for early release once. They didn't give it to him straight away, but eventually they did, and then he was released. Let me turn around. This kind of shelter there, it's called l'ombrerie, so the shadow maker. That's from Norman Foster. It's fairly new. I mean, it's about 12 years old, but I had never seen it before today because I don't come to Marseille that often. Anyway, so Jean-Baptiste is out of prison, early release. I mean, he had gone through all the psychology tests and everything you might imagine. He took a job in Toulouse, and very soon after, there's a young girl in Toulouse, 21 years old, Cynthia Limbadou. She disappeared. She was found dead into her flat. Horrible crime scene once again. She had been almost decapitated, and they found some DNA on the bathroom door. Guess who? Jean. And again, the consequences. Some people sometimes wonder if you are born evil, if you are born because the family was victimized. Family was victimized, of course, and unfairly victimized in 1974. But after the book, they were kind of vilified because they were the family that might have sent an innocent man to, I was going to say to the gallows, no, not to the gallows, to the guillotine. So very tragic story that affected so many lives. And I mean, I don't want to give him any excuse. I mean, he was a terrible killer. But I think it's fair to say that if he had not gone through that huge trauma, he might not have... I actually wonder if it is indeed the sweat on my arms that catch the cable and then bring the gimbal down. Anyway, this is Marseille soap. Marseille is famous for its soap, Savon de Marseille. You find a lot of them being sold everywhere. I actually carry quite a lot of soap in my bag myself today, because we got my parents took an Airbnb next to where my sister was getting married, and in the Airbnb she had given us 2 Marseille soaps, so I took them with me. And my sister at the wedding, they gave their guests some camel milk soap, you know, because they both live in Dubai, so they wanted to give the guests something typical of Dubai. And I ended up taking a few soaps home myself. So I carry a lot of soap with me today. So I'm not gonna buy any Marseille soap from here, I'm afraid. You'd say probably the heat. Yeah, I do hope so, because I don't really want to have to buy a gimbal again. But we'll see. I'll have to see. Because I've not had any problems with the gimbal in Saint-Tropez. It was fine, wasn't it? So it's probably just the heat. They're not meant to be over a certain heat. Those gimbal. When it's very cold as well, when it goes under 0 degrees, they also go a bit funny. So I'm hoping that's the only reason. Anyway, we are now on La Canebière, it's called. It's probably one of the most famous streets in Marseille. It didn't used to be pedestrian when I used to live around here, but it is now, so that's quite cool. The bottom of the street here is pedestrianized. And this is the Chambre de Commerce, that building. A Chambre de Commerce, I think it's like a guild hall. And let's go up the Canebière. I'm gonna move into the shade over here so I'll see the chat a bit better. You might see a tram in the distance. So you have underground as well as trams in Marseille. Marseille is the 3rd city in France. Well, I think it's about the same as Lyon, really, in terms of population. Anyway, there's another very intriguing case in Marseille that some of the journalists have dubbed the Marseille Ripper. We are not even sure whether any crimes were committed at all, but the Marseille Ripper has now been jailed. Is he really a killer? There's no hard evidence that he was, so it's actually very interesting that he was convicted when all of the evidence is actually completely circumstantial. But let me tell you the story. We're going back to 2008, when a few, well, 3 to be precise, foreign sex work. Connection is a bit dodgy now. I think we are back. That really brought the case up to. That really brought the case up to the news, because she was a sex worker, but her mother didn't know. So that evening she was with her mother in Marseille. We're not in Monaco. 900 euros, it's a lot of money for a night for a sex worker here. And so her friend was a bit worried, and that The police ended up looking into one man. The police ended up looking into one man called Patrick Salameh, mainly because there's another victim or alleged victim called Sumia. She was also a sex worker, and she went to tell the police that one night she had been into Salameh's flat. He had tortured her, for 6 hours, and she had spotted a lady, very probably dead, in the bathtub. And she had confronted him, and he had told her, that's what I do to girls that don't do what I want them to do. Now, Sumia, even her loved ones were like, yeah, she's not very stable mentally. She probably shouldn't be trusted in what she says. And apparently some say, or some allege, that she met Salameh again after that. So when you know you're going to be tortured, why do you accept the client? You know, so she's not the most reliable of the witnesses. But yet, the police went to examine that little, I don't even know how to call it in English. In French, they call it garçonnière. It's basically, he had a home with his family, and 200 meters away, he had his little flat for himself. So that's where he took his prostitutes, you know. When they went to examine the little flat, well, they found DNA of the 3 alleged victims, Zineb, Christina, and Elena. So their DNA were there, as well as some items. Zineb, she had lost her underwear, for example. But Salameh was like, yeah, sure, yeah, they did come here, yeah. I mean, they're prostitutes. I wanted what I wanted, so they came here for sex. Yes, so what? And there were no proofs that they had disappeared. There were no proofs that they were dead. And so it's hard to go for him for murder when there's no body anywhere. Zineb's telephone was still active, so the police actually tracked him down, or tracked the phone down, and they found the little boy. They're like, how did you get that SIM card? And the little boy said, oh, someone gave it to me, Patrick Salameh, which is, it's actually quite a good idea. So he had actually stolen the SIM card from the victim to give it to someone to pretend it was still active. So Salameh was actually a rather smart guy, you know, but that pointed into his direction. But again, there was no body, there was no evidence. He had met the 3 of them, yeah, but there was no body. What really alerted the police, it was his profile. Patrick Salameh was just out of jail. He had been jailed for 16 years for robbery, but that's a lot for robbery, but it was not any robbery. He was robbing homes in the Var region, but in that robbery, he actually used torture. He had stabbed somebody's feet for a few hundreds euros. It was in francs at the time, but a few hundred euros in today's money. That's very odd. Usually robbers or this type of criminals, they wouldn't use this type of ways. So he was jailed, and in jail he actually met Alfredo Stragnetti. That was another serial killer I think he was in Paris. Patrick Salameh actually started writing about serial killers. He was fascinated by them. Now, not everyone that cares about true crime ends up being a killer, luckily, because otherwise I'll be in trouble myself. But you know, he had a weird fascination for them, and he was writing about it a lot. I'm just gonna wait because it's a bit noisy. There we go. Let's go up towards Saint-Charles train station. The reason why eventually the police believed they had enough to take him to court, it's because a few months before the first victim, before the first sex worker, there had been another girl that had disappeared. Her name was Fatima. She was very young. She had a boyfriend. Let's go. She lived in the north area of the city, and it was gonna be summertime. She had no jobs for the summer. When her boyfriend had a job, a lot of her friends had a job, so she wanted to find a job for herself. She saw an ad on the internet or newspapers, whatever, asking for a babysitter. She applied. She received a phone call from a gentleman that wanted to hire her. He claimed to be a divorced gentleman, and his wife was still around, but they were no longer together. And he wanted a babysitter for several occasions through the summer, and he wanted her to come for her first shift. They agreed to meet at Metro Malpassé, so that's a tube station, and she went with her boyfriend. I think his name was Mehdi, but she said to Mehdi, don't come outside with me, you know, it's probably gonna look better for me if I'm on my own, you know, I don't need my boyfriend around. So he turned around. He didn't come out of the metro not to pay the fare. He turned around and went back home. He had no news from her apart from a weird text that said, met an old friend, I'm going away for the weekend, which was very odd. You know, his girlfriend would never do that. It was not the type of vocabulary she'd use, but she'd never just go without telling her family or telling them where she went. So Mehdi was, of course, very worried, and he alerted the family, he alerted the police. He looked everywhere. He placed some ads on some posters around the Metro Malpassé, and Fatima was never ever found. The family actually started to suspect Mehdi because he was doing so much to find Fatima that you know, sometimes when you're guilty, that's exactly what you do. You know, you do so much to convince people that you're not guilty. But Fatima was never found. Nobody, no crime, right? But eventually, though, the police started to track the phone call. You know, she had received a phone call inviting her for the interview on the first shift. Really, they tracked the phone call to a telephone box by the station here, Saint-Charles. That's where we're heading to. So that's the main train station in Marseille. That's where I'm gonna take my bus to the airport myself as we finish the tour. And so they found the telephone box, and then that's it. You know, they had no leads, but there was a homeless lady that was often there in front of Saint-Charles station. She was begging. So they asked the lady if by any chance she had spotted anyone making a phone call on that very day. And God, they were lucky. Not only did the lady spot Salameh, but she was actually used. Salameh went to pay her if she stood in the telephone box with him, pretending to be his wife. And he said to her, I hope you're not a snitch, are you? So that's really her witness statement that allowed them to take him down to court, really. So he's jailed now, which is great, because I wouldn't have wanted to be a jury on that one, because there's no, I mean, everyone knows it's him. The guy was violent, and he had used violence before, and the DNA of the girls were in his flat. But really, that's all circumstantial. He had, when he was in prison, he had started painting, and would you believe he became kind of popular as an artist? Let me show you some of his paintings. He was painting naked ladies, as well as decapitated cats, or that painting with a big red fist. I mean, this looks to me like vengeance. But you know, there's a weird fascination with prisoners, you know. When they are jailed, they get all those ladies sending them love letters and stuff. I mean, this is mad, but one of my friends used to do that when I was a teenager. I'm like, what? Anyway, actually, I know the prison, the Baumettes prison myself quite well, because so there's a huge prison wall, but there's a little hill right above it, where you can park and look at the prison windows. And I had a friend that was obsessed by prisons, so we would drive up from La Ciotat to Marseille to park in front of the prison with binoculars. And you could actually see those yo-yo toys coming out of the windows. So the prisoners were exchanging drugs or whatever it might be over their windows. The Baumettes prison is actually famous for escapes. Actually, Salameh himself had nearly managed to escape. He was actually jumping over the prison walls, but I think he broke his leg or something. So technically he was outside, but they caught him because he had broken a limb. Apologies, I'm a bit huffing and puffing, but I'm carrying so much luggage and I'm going uphill, so apologies for my breathing. So this is Saint-Charles. This is the main train station in Marseille. And I'm gonna try to stay away from the cable, because it might be me touching the gimbal cable with the sweat on my arms. I guess usually the cable can touch your arm and not be annoyed, but if your arms are a bit sticky, that might be. I'm hoping that's what's happening. I hope my gimbal is not broken. Anyway, so that's the story of the Marseille Ripper. He was very quickly dubbed the Marseille Ripper, when really there's no strong evidence. And this sister would argue that we don't even know if the ladies are dead. Some people claim that one of them actually went back to their country. So who knows? So the telephone box where the phone call was going from with the homeless lady, it was here in front of the station. It's no longer here because I guess they've all been removed, those telephone boxes. We don't need them anymore. It's not like the London ones that are very... I don't know why I decided to go all the way up. It's not like the London ones that are very pretty. Right, let's go all the way up just to see the view, and that'll be the end of the tour. Oops, sorry, my microphone is falling down. There we go.
C'est Marseille bébé.
There we go, that's Marseille Saint-Charles. So that's gonna be the end of the tour. Let me know if you have... Ooh. Oh no, I think my gimbal is broken for good. Oh no. Let me know if you have any questions before we go. If not, thank you for coming today. It's always a pleasure to have you around. And let me show you the view. So the church on the hill there, it is Notre-Dame de la Garde, also known as La Bonne Mère, but the statue seems to be under scaffolding at the moment. So La Bonne Mère is the Virgin Mary at the top. It's a huge statue of the Virgin Mary. You can actually go up inside of the statue. It is that big. And La Bonne Mère is very, very important to people of Marseille. If you want to pray or if anything happens to any of your loved ones, you'd probably come to see La Bonne Mère to wish for the best. Thanks, Pauline. That's very nice of you. If any of you dropped me a little tip on PayPal or on Buy Me a Coffee as well, that's very much appreciated. And it looks like it might be going into the purchase of a new gimbal. Je te filme pas toi, copain, t'inquiète pas. Non, c'est bon, j'ai pas besoin de figurant. Sorry, I've got some people with... Some people are looking for trouble. I'm not exactly worried. Anyway, thank you for coming today. Let me show you my face again, and let me know if you have any questions before we go. If not, I'll see you next week. London Way of Death. So we're going back to Smithfield area. So that's back to the dark side of London. Let me go down here to have a bit of shade because I don't see anything. There we go. And if any of you were completely new to me, hope you liked it. Hope you'll follow. And I'm gonna go and buy a drink. Thank you very much for coming today. Thanks for bearing with me with the horrible gimbal and huffing and puffing around. What is Barbara? I'm gonna flip the camera around to see what you're saying, Barbara. Oh, thank you, Barbara. Thanks, Pisas. Thanks everyone for coming. Hopefully, I'll see you next week in London. If not, the week after that, I'm taking you back to Lady Welland Brockley Cemetery in South London. I'm not gonna get the air conditioning quite yet, Ronnie, because I'm going on a bus. I'm not sure there'll be a fresh bus. I'm gonna get down towards the airport. I'm flying home tonight and working at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Cool. Thank you guys. Have a great evening, a great morning, whatever time it is for you, wherever you are in the world. And I'll leave you on this beautiful view of La Bonne Mère. Hopefully, I'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Bye.